The 2026 DGPT schedule unveils a new post-produced Jomez series, but the same underrepresented West Coast swing, and for some reason, not one, but two stops in Lynchburg. There was an AM World Championship, a surprise Paul McBeth appearance on Tour Life, and really not that much more this week in disc golf. What's good, disc generates? We're here for yet another. And I'm your host, even if it's just for a brief time, Swiss Cheese. Yes, the one with all the holes in his game and also one part of the disc golf world. That one YouTube channel still providing the hardest and fastest professional coverage on the airwaves, even if it's to the dismay of the DGPT. And we're here with another installment of This Week in Disc Golf, where I cover all things disc golf from the past week. But if you've been caught under a rock and somehow have no idea what happened at Idlewild, we got you covered. But with an off week this late on the schedule, it almost certainly comes with a DGPT announcement attached. And they didn't disappoint as they delivered. Last week, they broadcast a new bio stop, and this week, they unveiled the entire Elite Series schedule. And an intriguing series on top. Let's get it out of the way now, and it might shock some after the intro, and the fact that it's coming from us, of course. But this is the best schedule the tour has put together for some years now, if not ever. No punchline here, I can actually say that with confidence. And has plenty of pros and fans alike cheering this announcement, as they celebrate the fact that it eliminates an extended Texas swing, also ensures less split fields with a much needed drew air quotes on the word condensed European tour, and for most viewers, a more variety of new and higher caliber courses on their screens, along with the addition of the JomezPro series, which will provide additional coverage of stops that are former mainstays on tour, with Waco, Cascade Challenge, and the now named Champions Landing Open. Though these aren't Elite Series, still keeps these stops relevant while also an opportunity to showcase its talents. Add future announcements and stops to come, had many excited even before a return to De La was hinted. At least that was what CEO Jeff Spring alluded to in an interview on The Upshot.
You know, we see that as above an A tier versus, a non-sanctioned, event. So, for us, it's listening to our event teams mostly. And then also, giving some of the legacy spots, we've had some conversations with the Fort and, maybe looking to add them. We'll see. It's a little teaser. I've had some, I think we referenced De La as like that type of course is an opportunity to put back on, and there's going to be some connectivity with points and that kind of stuff.
And for all of you waiting for the butt to drop like the DGPT did Waco, but despite this being the best schedule, still has plenty of holes that go beyond one of the slowest starts of the season we have ever seen, with bye weeks between the first four stops. And if we're being honest, not all these issues were created by the DGPT, but they still ignored the Mountain and West Coast, and even with the JomezPro edition of De La, a now must if you ask me with this Elite Series schedule, still doesn't excuse the lack of growth and development in that market for plenty of years now, which does also contain the home of our sport. Made more insulting by awarding the same number of Elite Series stops out west as awarded to all of Lynchburg. Not a typo there. Take a look for yourself. Sure, one of those was out of their control with the PDGA awarding Champions Cup there, but the DGPT still chose to literally double down and use Ivy Hills for its championship finale. And I'm not sure what's worse, the food at Ivy Hills or JomezPro Open, which got a return to the tour over better attended events now off the 2026 schedule. But that's already more time spent on JomezPro than needed. Back to Lynchburg like the tour will be. Apart from logistics and the obvious desire to further separate from the USDGC, I don't understand awarding that location over other more established communities with a much longer history and support in the sport. Putting Lynchburg on par by actually scheduling the same amount of stops as the Charlotte area, considered and spoken with so much reverence as the Mecca of disc golf for a temp course finale in Virginia of all places, that no spectator or player looks forward to walking, creates poor messaging, especially when you're out there saying this.
And ideally, we're going to courses that are permanent, that can be played year round, that are good for tourism year round, and that are in the top, 50 to 100 in the world.
Now let me move past Bedford County before someone in the comments section tries to tie that rant to us hating on Foundation. The European swing of the schedule is heralded for no longer having to deal with Elite Series that alternate between US and Euro stops week after week. And there's no argument here for that schedule change being a dramatic improvement and less of a burden on the players. But after continued impressive showings overseas and the greatest disc golf event ever to be held at this year's Worlds, many are disappointed with the drop-off of Elite Series events in Europe, moving from 7 last year down to just 4. Though DGPT isn't entirely to blame on this one either, as Krokel, PCS, and Konopiste Open all chose to take a year off to strengthen their venues for future events. An understood reaction, not only following what UC and his team put on, but also because of the PDGA's marriage to Estonia and their festival for years to come, establishing somewhat of a schedule for future events in Europe to showcase for anticipated Euro schedule down the road that other stops will want to attach to in the future. However, only having 4 Elite Series events overseas, none of which in Finland, greatly hinders the European players from an opportunity to challenge for the DGPT championship, and even less chances for USDGC qualifications also. A disservice to European pros unable to make the jump to the US. And though the swing will grow with Silver Series events or whatever iteration they will call it, it still seems like a downgrade to an exciting swing this year. And lastly, the JomezPro series brings some issues also, as this appears to be a method for the DGPT to keep stops on the back burner to create more flexibility in scheduling in the future. And though this move is smart and also more exciting for the Never Live guys, it does hinder other post-produced productions that are carried out during the season, as this seems to be just as much as the DGPT's expansion of Jomez to its response to the Go Throw Tour, and other post-produced channels for that matter that are awarded A tiers in the season, making it further difficult on the smaller guys by further limiting stops and creating a more direct competition at points. The tour creating this chokehold to limit ace run, gatekeeper, go throw, and even possibly the disc golf guys content might be better for the tour's bottom line, but not necessarily for the sport, as competition breeds innovation. This weekend also saw the crowning of the amateur disc golf world champion, so prepare yourself for further sandbagging accusations and a spoiler warning, as we even still await all the coverage to come out. Harmony Bends was the showcase for this year's AM Worlds, which set the stage for a tight race in both divisions, no less. The FA1 had a final day lead card with 2 sisters, multiple USWDGC winners, and the entire card separated by only a single stroke. The final day was a back and forth affair with plenty of movement from the start, all highlighted by the efforts of Peyton Kohut, who began the back half 5 down to the eventual 3rd place finisher Haley Huber. And that's because Peyton charged on the back half with a 7 under and clean final back 9, which showcased an ace on 12, the only one on the ladies' side of the weekend, and her first ever in a tournament. Gave her a 1-stroke lead with only a single hole to play over Therese Cuvaz, who was looking for some redemption after a 2nd place finish at AMS Worlds last year. After a guardian hit on her approach, Peyton opened the door for Therese to take advantage. And that she did by parking her approach for a bullseye birdie, and a playoff between the two ensued, which would come to an end after a 3-hole playoff and a disastrous OB rollaway for Peyton, handing Therese her 2nd FA1 major victory on the season. MA1 had a race of its own, as Hayden Carroll, a lefty who has dominated the amateur Midwest scene, took the top spot after an 11 under day 2, maintained that lead over the field and headed into the final day 3 strokes ahead of forehand specialist and one sick mustache wearing RJ Churkus. Add the U.S. amateur disc golf champion James Collier on chase card making a charge, and a slow par start with some bogeys tossed in by Carroll on the front 9 of the final day allowed both RJ and James to close the gap and take the lead after a 2-stroke swing on 7. Carroll would respond with 4 straight birdies, including his 3rd seed 2-putt make on 9, but after another 2-stroke swing on 12 following a bogey, would be down a stroke to RJ with 6 to play. Collier ran out of holes after RJ and Hayden went 3 under over the next 5 holes, but did lack another podium in a major this year with his 3rd place finish. The stage was set with RJ a single stroke lead over Hayden heading to the 2nd most difficult hole on the course, 18. And I'm not too sure what transpired there on 18, as coverage is yet to be released and the missing stat line's unable to tell the story either. I'm just gonna have to wait wait and see for Gatekeeper's coverage just like you. But what I do know is Hayden delivered on the must-get birdie, and RJ somehow registered a bogey, giving Carroll the championship. While we're on the topic of championships, after Paul McBeth finally got his after 2 years, he would go on to hit the podcast circuit after breaking his winless streak, which also featured a surprising stop on Tour Life, as he and Brody put aside their beef at least for an hour and a half for his first appearance on the show. And despite an inauspicious beginning, at least by this viewer, acknowledging the two haven't spoken in 2 years, went smoothly after, and was well received by the community. But Paul does what Paul does, and that's deliver on every podcast, whether it's Tour Life, Upshot, and Smashbox for that matter. Being candid enough at points, while also delivering GOAT bars on his mindset, the game and where it's at, and of course the players. Check them all out, or just wait till the soup this weekend. Funny, what I found more interesting than that Paul interview was Uli dropping this.
I just went there to practice today. Not playable.
Wait, why not?
It's not playable. It is in the worst shape I've ever seen that property ever in my life. The grass is up to, it's literally higher than me. I'm not kidding. It's insane.
We're going to be honest here. There's still plenty of time remaining with USDGC a month away, and the fact the team there has impressively delivered year after year, including last year after flooding and damage from a hurricane. But I also trust Uli's eyes, an ambassador of the game who has been around and seen it all. And he always chooses his words carefully. For him to go as far as he did and say it's unplayable at that are strong words and does bring some concerns. Now, let's get you on your way and get to some quick hitters. Finnish basketball star Lauri Markkanen was kind enough to give Nicola Santala a new dress in their version of a jersey swap. Kat drops a new track as she's on pace for an album, Heartbreak RV. No, Ricky Wysocki's not taking a lie detector test, but dealing with a wrist injury on top of a knee, as he revealed that this is what prevented him from attending Ida Wild. And while we're on injuries, Johnny McRae has been cleared to play. Bunch of players all showed off their new kicks this week. Isaac Robinson with a new Vessi colorway that is looking clean. And speaking of clean, Antala's all-white Merrills will stand out on the finish of this year. And even Valerie Mandahanu got into the action, albeit with a sad-looking pickleball pair. Man, that was difficult to say. AJ Jenkins hits his 1800 course. Adam Hammis, the card junkie, might be more excited about his cowprint Brixton card than that Mika Parsons trade. And guys, that wraps up this week in disc golf. Shout out to all those on the Patreon and every one of you that have stayed this long for me to thank. And like always, if you've enjoyed and not subscribed, make sure to do so. And if you haven't already, hit that like button, comment, and share.